What's up, my wasslers? It's Dev, aka Tragic the Slathering, aka SPMT Jesus, and today we're going to be telling November to slough off and ring in the month of December with the most appropriate kind of video we can make, and that's a wish list. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 10 cards that I want to see come back in Return to Theros. What are we calling this set? Shadows over Theros. What's it called? Hold on, real quick. Let me just do a little research here. Theros Beyond Death is what they're calling it this time around. But I knew that the whole time. I just scripted that joke for this video, right? Anyway, let's get past that part. Today's Cards I Want Reprinted in X or Y video is going to be a little bit different than how I normally do them because I've already done this video like a bazillion times. So you could go watch any of those if you wanted to, because they're really not that much different from set to set. In fact, people who have watched those videos already will tell you that sometimes there will be repeats from video to video because I really want certain cards reprinted and they just won't do it. That's another reason you can go back and watch any of those and just apply those cards to Theros, because to the best of my knowledge, I don't know that they've ever reprinted anything that I said I wanted reprinted. So, sad face. But anyway, I'm going to actually impose a bit of a restriction on myself, a caveat this time around. Rather than just any old card, I will only allow myself to put cards on this list that we've seen on the plane of Theros before. Now, when we get a little bit later on into the video, you'll understand why I worded that so specifically. Really threaded a needle there without you even knowing, but you'll get it eventually. But anyway, one of the main reasons I wanted to force this restriction upon myself is exactly because there's a smaller card pool if we do this. And I know you might say that's kind of the problem, but if I just got to choose from all the cards that I like and want reprinted, I would just say Vindicate over and over, and a bunch of other cards, Fireball. I mean, you've seen it before, right? That's the whole point of this restriction, is that now that I have a smaller card pool, I really got to focus on the spice from Theros World. So with that said, let's start off with the honorable mention. Spiciest thing in the world, I want Allied Temples. Okay, so that's not a very spicy pick at all in the least, but that's why it's the honorable mention. You know, these are almost certainly going to get reprinted. No questions asked, so I might finally get one right, y'all. Anyway, I just don't think there's really much exciting here. We're going to get them and be like, thanks, and move on. So let's do exactly that now and get to the real list. And one of the best things about only being able to pick from, like, Theros Land cards is that I get to focus on, like, kind of lame, almost forgotten commons and uncommons for a couple of slots on this list, like Epiphany Storm, which you probably haven't forgotten. This is actually kind of a popular card in some circles, amazingly enough, but this is just 1 red mana to throw it on, say, an Ironcrag Pyromancer, and then you don't even have to have anything else out. Just like this attached to a Pyromancer allows you to bolt something on your turn every single turn, and that's pretty sweet. Plus you get a little discard draw action. You don't even have to have Royal Scions. It's an engine unto itself, which is sweet. Plus there's like Glinthorn Buccaneer in this format that this could work well with. Just Reanimator strategies. Who knows? Maybe they'll reprint Madness a couple of sets from now. So there's all kinds of reasons why you might want Epiphany Storm, but my big one is Ironcrag Pyromancer and any of the draw your second card of the turn spells. This would actually be kind of really decent with. So even though this isn't like the best card in the world, that's kind of the point, you know? It's not going to upend standard if they print this or anything, but it might be really useful in a couple of very specific decks. But we go from Storm to Form for number 9, Aqueous Form. I really like this card. I like pretty much any like cheap blue aura that says you can't block this guy. And in this format, this would actually be really relevant some of the time, you know, things like Rankle, Master of Pranks that need to get through for combat damage, things like Thief of Sanity, Dreadhorde Butcher, there's like 100 cards, Silent Submersible, there's a ton of stuff right now that needs to get through for combat damage to actually proc, and I would really like them to reprint Aqueous Form or some other cheap blue aura that let your creatures get through unblocked. Plus, there's like a bunch of ways to make really big creatures. Make like a huge Stone Coil Serpent or something with all of your mana, all your Nissa mana, and then just throw this on there and get through unblocked. There's a bunch of things you can do with an unblockable creature, but mostly because of all the stuff that triggers on combat damage, I'd really like to see Form come back. I'm not going to lie, this is my list, so there's going to be a couple of slots on here that are mostly sentimental to me from the world of Theros, but I would imagine that a couple of these are also going to be very sentimental for a great deal of people in the audience who were playing when Theros was around. So with that in mind, number 8 is Nyx Weaver, because I just love this little guy so much. We actually already know, spoiler alert, there will be a couple of spoilers pertaining to the leaks that have already happened, but I'm not going to spoil anything like super crazy or anything, but just spoiler alert, there is a leak for a 1-mana spider that's going to be in Theros. So Spider Tribal, we're doing it, y'all. I really hope so. It'd be nice if you did that and brought back Nyx Weaver along with it. I just really like this card a lot. There's, Undergrowth strategies in the format that could employ this. Finally make Undergrowth a decent deck, Reanimator decks. We've got, you can put this in Sultai and try to get Narcomoebas and Creeping Chills and stuff off of it. Just any Reanimator deck, plus this plus Golgari Finebreaker plus Fine Finality. There's just so many ways to dig around your graveyard and get stuff back, grindy value and whatnot in the late game in Golgari right now, and this would just be another piece that allows you to do that. But, that said, Nyx Weaver also isn't going to shake the world. It's not going to be the most important card you reprint, which actually it's kind of a good argument for reprinting it. It's not going to change much, but it's a card that means a surprising amount to a surprising amount of people, and I'm one of them. I like this guy. Now, so far, with the few entries we've gone through on the list at this point, I've tried to give you multiple reasons why I want these cards back in the format, but with number 7, there's only really one specific reason why I want Mind Reaver back in the format, and that's if you put Feather next to it and then read them. That's it. I know that it's almost impossible to actually make this happen. I mean, look at all the different colors of mana you have to make this work, and how many of those colors of mana you have to have for that matter. But still, I'd like to see a world where I can cast, 3 or 4 cheap spells on my Mind Reaver every turn and just completely mill the opponent out within literally 2 turns. If you just hit them with a few different 1 mana instants every single turn, then it really won't take long to kill your opponent by milling them out. And again, there's a lot of work without really that much reward, but I just want to see it happen. That's all. I mean, can we make this deck in Modern? It's not going to work. That's why it has to be in Standard. So reprint Mind Reaver. Now, full disclosure, in case you haven't noticed this yet, I wanted to use the first half of this list for silly cards and stuff you might not remember, and just really pull up the corners of the rug and dig as far as we can for some real spice from the world of Theros. But the second half of the list from number 5 and on is going to be all way more powerful, actually good Magic cards. So look forward to that. But for my last kind of dumb card that I get to put on this list, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit and put 2 cards up here: Grim Guardian and Underworld Coinsmith. I just love both of these things. I love anything that procs or triggers on enchantments, period, or artifacts for that matter, but both of these are obviously going to fit with the enchantment theme of Theros. And we've already kind of confirmed that we're going to go back to an enchantment theme. We're going to have enchantment creatures and all that stuff, so these would be just as good as they were the first time, which is to say not super good, but I had a lot of fun with them. I had a lot of fun with both of these cards way back when Theros first dropped. It was one of my favorite budget decks to mess around with in that format. So I just really miss both of these, especially Grim Guardian, an awful lot. And I'd like to see either them or a card like them reprinted in the very near future here. Now, as I've just got done saying, but attention spans, the first half of this list is all stupid cards for stupid people like me. I like to have janky fun when I play Magic, but we're going to go into the sort of more serious side of the list. But a card that I think bridges the gap really well, and that's why it's right smack dab in the middle here, is Astral Cornucopia. Now, this card may look really silly the first time you read it, and the second and third, and well into the hundreds, if I'm being honest, but this is actually a really sweet card that does a lot of things for you and has a surprisingly high rank on EDHrec.com. I was surprised by it, but this doesn't just make mana, but it does in fact make mana, and if you have enough mana, it makes a ton of mana every time you tap it. But it's not just good in Commander. It turns out we've got a bunch of strategies and different cards in Standard right now that would make this somewhat playable. Also kind of worth noting that if you have a Mystic Forge out, you can just play this for 0 mana to help you blast through your deck a little bit faster too, so that's sweet. Plus we've got Nissa in this format, so we can make 12 mana like it's nothing, and at that point Cornucopia taps for a jillion, so it's just a crazy card. Plus we even have Manifold Key in this format to untap it, make more mana. I mean, there's just a lot you could do with a Cornucopia right now, so I hope it comes back. Now, knocking on the door of the top 3, but not quite making it in, is Soldier of the Pantheon. But don't let that make you think I don't like the card. I mean, it still made my list, right? I think this would do so much in Standard right now. Just so many things can't nail it that people are kind of relying on right now. You got your Assassin's Trophies, your Tyrant Scorn, Deafening Clarion can't take it out. That's kind of important some of the time. Teferi Time Raveler, Mayhem Devil Damage can't kill this thing. I mean, there's just so many things this guy survives. And so many creatures people are playing that this strolls right through or just blocks for days. And it occasionally gains you a little bit of life too. I mean, there's so much about the card that's sweet. And on top of all of that, it'd be really nice if White Weenie had another 2-power 1-drop. But again, this is just so much more than a Savannah Lions. It's a ridiculous card, and I'd love to have it back. But now that we're in the top 3, let's talk about another white 1-drop. Because if we're going to actually catch white up to the card quality of the other colors in Standard right now, I think our best shot of doing it, fairly at least, is probably Chained to the Rocks. Now, I've seen a startling amount of people on Twitter and Reddit and other locations on the information superhighway talk about how to catch white up. What we need to do is reprint Swords to Plowshares or Path to Exile. No, don't do that's ridiculous. Those cards are way too good. Even Path to Exile, which a lot of people I've heard say is safe right this moment. And even though I think Wizards might reprint Path to Exile, I don't think they should reprint Path to Exile. If you're going to do this effect fairly, I think the best way of doing it is just to do Chain with the Rocks, or Chain to the Rocks, rather, excuse me. Chain to the Rocks might require the player to be at least in Boros, if not Mardu or another shard, but this is still, again, probably the way of doing this that causes the least problem, the fewest problems. Now for number 2, this is what's going to put that statement from earlier in context. I want Hall of Heliod's Generosity, not in a Theros set, but set on the plane of Theros. This card is. It was in a Horizon set or something. I think that's right. Anyway, this would just be a perfect card to reprint into Theros. Beyond Death, that's what it was. Shadows over Theros. Anyway. Great card to reprint. We basically get like a Volrath Stronghold for enchantments here. And how freaking sweet would that be? Although, probably a little bit too powerful with Doom Foretold. Probably slightly too powerful with Doom Foretold and Fires of Invention in the format. Plus, there's all kinds of crazy, stupid garbage you could do with this card that I probably don't have the time to list out in this video right now. But all that said, I'm not sure that it's not fair. Even with Doom Foretold in the format, I'm not 100% sure this card isn't fair to have. However, there are a bunch of cards that I think aren't fair to reprint, and they're all from the Theros verse. So I want to go ahead and point those out as sort of break the monotony here before we get to number 1, build the tension, do all that. Don't fast forward the video. You're going to want to see this part, because what I'm going to do here is briefly talk about 5 cards they absolutely should not reprint in Theros Beyond Death. By any means, by any stretch of the imagination, don't reprint these cards, starting with Hero's Downfall at number 5, because we already have one. We already have one of those. I don't know that we need 2, so don't reprint Hero's Downfall. Number 4 is a Crowing Crusader and Friends, mostly Favored Hoplite, because the last little bit of text on Favored Hoplite makes me want to tear my eyeballs out whenever I play against it. I hate Favored Hoplite, but I also hate a Crowing Crusader, and that's when they were fair cards, so imagine them in a Feather deck, where you just get like 4 1/1s every turn. Like it seems too good. So, and like you can never ever deal damage to their Favorite Hoplite, and you know it. So I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. Spoiler alert if you care about leaks, but we already know that a form of Heroic is going to be in this set, or at least a card or 2 that has Heroic without actually having the word Heroic on it. So it looks like they are going to be playing off this theme in Theros. Don't do it. Don't reprint these cards. Now, number 3 on the don't reprint by any means list is probably the most controversial part of the whole video, and you're probably going to hate me. Get ready for the dislikes, Dev. Get ready for the dislikes. But try to remain calm and know that YouTube is a place where we can exchange ideas in a calm way. But anyway, there's no way I'm gonna get out from under the deluge of like you, because I'm pretty sure y'all probably wanted this card to be on the main list. But don't reprint Grey Merchant of Asphodel. You don't reprint Gary. I know it's terrible. You hate me so much. I love Gary. You should know that. Full disclosure, this is one of my favorite creatures of all time. And I've been playing since 1995. I've been playing this game for most of my entire life. And Gary is easily one of the best creatures that has ever been printed, to my mind. And that's probably why you shouldn't reprint it in a standard. Especially considering that we have a Yara in this format. We have a black 3-drop that costs 3 black mana. That would be ridiculous with this. There's also Another spoiler alert, is this the last one? I think this might be the last one. But in case you didn't know this, Underworld Dreams is getting reprinted into this set, so say the leaks, and it's being reprinted as an uncommon. It's pretty crazy because the one from Legends is like $40. It does look way cooler, at least there's that. But in any case, yeah, Underworld Dreams is going to be in the set, so we're actually going to have 2 3-drops in Standard that cost 3 black mana. So if you reprint Gary... Ooh, and we've even got like Deathless Knight, Yarks, Finlurker. There's a bunch of stuff that could easily increase your devotion to black. And we haven't even seen any of the cards from Theros yet. That's not necessarily true, but we haven't seen the vast majority of Theros yet. So it seems really dangerous to print Gary right now, especially if you want aggro to actually be a deck. I'm not sure that you can print this card, but I guess a lot of people don't want aggro to be a deck. So I can see why you'd want Gary back, especially... for sentimental value, you'd want to play Gary again, but I'm just not sure that Gary is conducive to a fair, balanced format at the moment. And finally, numbers 2 and 1 are Mana Confluence and Nykthos. Is Nykthos, controversial to say don't reprint? I mean, the thing about Nykthos is that I think it might be safe, but I'm not going to give it the benefit of the doubt either, Just to be safe, let's not reprint Nykthos. I know it's getting fairly expensive at this point, so a lot of people probably do want a reprint, make it easier to get for commander play and all that stuff. I could see some real arguments for reprinting Nykthos, don't get me wrong, but I just think maybe play the best bet is to not put a card this ridiculously powerful back into Standard. As far as Mana Confluence goes, that probably doesn't need much explanation. I don't think we need Mana Confluence. That's a very powerful card. We can no longer have stuff like this because people will abuse it. We can't have fun. All of Standard Magic will be 4 and 5 color decks if we have Mana Confluence, and there was a time where I thought we wanted that, but after having experienced it with the fetch lands meta for so long, I'm not sure anymore, y'all. I don't think that we actually want that, so no Mana Confluence. But anyway, you've definitely waited long enough. Let's go ahead and talk about number 1, Satyr Wayfinder. I wonder how many people called this, especially knowing me and the kind of Magic player I am. But you could also give us Commune with the Gods, and I would be okay with that. Either one of these or both of them. Both of them? That'd be fine. But I really want Satyr Wayfinder specifically because I want a body on the battlefield. Mostly because Blood for Bones is a thing, and I think this would go really well in those decks. But... back to those Sultai decks I was talking about when we brought up Nyx Weaver earlier. This would just be really sweet in any deck that's trying to mill itself and get Creeping Chills, Narcomoebas, and stuff like that. And I would really like a deck like that to be viable before, it's all said and done. Plus, again, back to Undergrowth strategies. Cards like this would be incredible for Undergrowth, and it feels like these Undergrowth decks, and even some of the Reanimator builds that are hanging around in the format, have just been waiting on this card. I know we've already got Wall of Lost Thoughts. I'm completely aware that we have Wall of Lost Thoughts and Merfolk Secret Keeper, but imagine having Satyr Wayfinder in the format as well. Then we would have a serious critical mass of creatures that can do this in the early game, stock up our graveyard, and that would just be really, really important for a number of decks that are really on the precipice of being like real Standard decks. So with that said, I want Satyr Wayfinder back for that reason, but also because I like him. I like the little guy a lot, and I'd like to have it back. But that's my list, except for Nyx Fleece Ram. I almost forgot Nyx Fleece Rams. Throw it in. This is the top 11 cards that I want reprinted because I like Nyx Fleece Ram too. We're just talking about stuff I like. That. Even though, didn't I just say if you reprint Gary that aggro is impossible to play? And Nyx Fleece Ram is probably a bigger problem for aggro, but it's a little sheep buddy who could not like Nyx Fleece Ram. Anyway, reprint that card too. I like it. But I guess that I'm done. So y'all let me know what cards you want to see reprinted in this set, and you don't have to restrict yourself to the Marvel Therosmatic universe. You don't have to do that. Just tell me what you want reprinted, period, in this video. Like, if they could reprint Argothian Enchantress, I'd do that, but I don't think we're hanging around anywhere near Argoth. And, yeah, do all the YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe if you haven't done it yet for more content, do all those things. Hit the bell, so the bell will do whatever the bell is supposed to do. We can't keep track of that stupid thing. And, yeah. Check all the stuff out. Join the Patreon if you want to pay me to continue producing content the way I do. Because I would like to, but if I don't make any money, I can't pay my stuff. I can't pay for stuff. So if you want to help me out, just click the link in the description and go down there And I will, yeah, you can also go to TCG Player. They sponsor my content. And they have very cheap prices on stuff. So, I don't know. I'll throw a couple deck lists down there instead of the usual stuff because, I don't know, you're probably not going to go out and buy any of these cards right now because like they're not guaranteed to be reprinted. So, I'll put some deck lists down there if you're interested. Click over to TCG Player. But anyway, I think that I am actually done. I'm sorry that there's like a shill part of each video. There's like a pitchman part. If you can't tell, I don't like doing it. So, reward my cynicism with being a cog in the capitalist machine by doing the capitalist stuff, clicking on the things and doing all that stuff. But anyway, I think I'm actually done, and so is Ziggy. He pinning my arm down with his giant head because you're trying to go to sleep. Yeah, I'm talking about you, fathead. Who am I to call anyone fathead? Anyway, I guess I'm done. I just want to keep talking to y'all, but I think that I'm actually done. So I'll catch you cats later. I'm dead from the place. Thanks for watching my wizards. Make sure you spread love and be kind.